and welcome to another Language of the Month. To start this week, we're going to do a little quiz. Year 6 are leaving us soon, but before they do, they're here to share some of their home languages with you. Each child will share a greeting in their home language. Can you guess which language they're speaking?
Sat Sri Akal.
Assalamu alaikum.
Vanakkam.
Ciao.
Sadly, I'm not really enjoying the beautiful beach behind me, but once travel opens up again, this country is definitely on my visit list. The country is located in southwestern Europe and is one of the oldest countries in Europe. Their national language is spoken by about 250 million people around the world, with only 9.5 million of those living in this country. They have a long coastline and border only one other country. Does anyone know where I'm thinking of? My language for this assembly is Portuguese, spoken in Portugal, but also in all of these red countries. There are lots of reasons you might have heard of Portugal.
So I'm announcing today that from May the 17th, you'll be able to travel to 12 green list countries and territories, which includes Portugal, Gibraltar and Israel.
No, not just because of that. No, not just for that either. Let's take a look at what Portugal has to offer. So let's learn some language that would help us in this fantastic country. Firstly, hello. My turn, then your turn. Hola. Hola. Then we'll try good morning. Bom dia. Bom dia. And good afternoon. Boa tarde. Boa tarde. And finally, good night. Boa noite. Boa noite. Awesome. Once I've said hello, I want to be polite, so I'll ask how someone is. ¿Cómo estás tú? ¿Cómo estás tú? You don't always need to include the word tú. ¿Cómo estás will do. But what if I need to ask for help or thank someone for their assistance? Let's look at please first. Por favor. Por favor. Thank you is a little bit more complicated because it changes depending on whether you're male or female. If you're a boy, you say obrigado. Obrigado. But if you're a girl, your word for thank you is obrigada. Obrigada. A nice thing about the Portuguese language is that there is a phrase used after someone has said thank you. It literally means it was nothing. But basically you're saying you're welcome, don't mention it, or I didn't mind doing it. The phrase is de nada. De nada. Today's story is a fairy tale from Portugal. It tells the tale of a princess with beautiful rings. Long ago, there lived a lovely princess who owned the most beautiful rings in the whole world. She had rings set with diamonds and rings set with pearls. She had rings set with rubies and rings set with sapphires. She had rings set with emeralds and turquoises and amethysts and every other kind of precious stone. This princess lived in a magnificent palace surrounded by a high wall. She loved the view of the gardens from her beautiful balcony, so she spent her days outside. Each day she would remove her chosen ring to avoid damaging it during the day, then replace it carefully for the evening. One day, a pretty white rabbit came up to the balcony to play with the princess. That day the princess was wearing her best diamond ring. She removed it very carefully and placed it in a safe space. Then it disappeared. She knew that the rabbit must have stolen it. The next day, the rabbit came again, and that day the princess lost her best emerald ring. She was very sure that the rabbit must have stolen that too. However, she liked to play with the rabbit, so she said nothing to anyone about the theft. Every day the rabbit came, and every day there was a ring missing. The princess had a large box full of rings in the beginning, but one morning she opened the box and saw that it was entirely empty. The princess became so sad that she would not go out to the balcony to play with the white rabbit. Every day she grew sadder and sadder. At last her father, the king, noticed it. "Perhaps she is lonely," thought the king. "Let us send for the storytellers of the kingdom to come and tell their stories to entertain her." For the princess truly enjoyed to hear fantastical tales of magic and mystery. All of the storytellers in the kingdom were sent to the palace. The very best were two old women who lived a long way away. On the journey, they became so tired that they forgot their best stories. What would they tell the princess? "We'll have to learn some new stories," said one old woman determinedly. Just then they spied a queer sight. There was a little donkey without any feet travelling along the road. "What a strange donkey!" cried the first old woman. "Let us follow along after him. Perhaps we shall be able to tell a story about him." The two old women followed the donkey into the forest. There was a little thatch-roofed house in the forest, and before the house there was a fire burning. A kettle of something which smelled good was boiling merrily over the fire. One woman went to taste the bubbling liquid. But as she was about to stick in her finger, she heard a strange deep voice which seemed to come out of the little thatched house. "Do not touch," It is not yours." The two old women went up to the door of the house, and one of them peeped through the keyhole. Inside the house, she saw a pretty white rabbit playing with a box full of rings. Suddenly, the white rabbit pulled off his skin and changed into a handsome prince. "What I wouldn't give to see the owner of these rings!" cried the prince. The two old women hurried away from the little house in the forest. "I know a story to tell the princess," cried one of the old women when she had recovered from her fright. "I'll tell her about the magic rabbit." By this time, many storytellers had told their tales to the princess. They were jolly tales too, but the princess was not in the least cheered by them. She remembered her lost rings even when she was listening to the stories. "If the storytellers cannot make the princess happy, who can?" asked the king in despair. Finally, the two old women reached the royal palace and went to tell their tales to the princess. The first old woman told the story of the donkey without any feet and the broth in the kettle. The princess did not appear to be particularly interested, even when the old woman told about the strange deep voice which said, "Do not touch, it is not yours." Cold chills, however, ran up and down the spines of the king and queen and all the courtiers when she came to that part of the tale. Next, the other old woman told how she peeked through the keyhole of the little thatched house and saw the white rabbit change his skin. The dark eyes of the princess sparkled when the old woman mentioned the rabbit, and she leaned forward in her chair eagerly. When the old woman told of the rabbit's words, "What I would not give to see the owner of these rings," the princess clapped her hands. "Take me to see this rabbit at once," she cried. The king and queen and all the courtiers went with the princess to find the white rabbit, and at last they drew near the forest. There was the donkey without any feet, and there was the little thatched house. Before the house, the fire was burning, and something which smelled good was boiling in the kettle. The princess stuck in her finger to try it. "Take it. It is yours," said the strange, deep voice from the little house. The princess was so surprised that she forgot to taste the good-smelling broth. She ran to the door of the house and peeped through the keyhole. There was the white rabbit playing with a box full of rings. "What I wouldn't give to see the owner of these rings," said the rabbit as he pulled off his skin and changed into a handsome prince. "Here's the owner of the rings," cried the princess. "She is here at your very door." The door of the little thatched house in the deep forest swiftly opened, and the prince received the princess in his arms. "Your words have broken my enchantment," he cried. "Now that at last the voice of the owner of these rings is heard at my door, I'll never have to put on my rabbit skin again." Obrigada for joining in with Language of the Month this week. Adios!
Hello there, it's Mr. Williams here. Thank you to everybody who took part in the Readathon on Friday. And a special thank you to all those people who managed to raise sponsorship money to put towards our book vending machines. I'm really happy to announce that so far we have raised over £1,800. That's more than enough money to buy our book vending machine and stock it with books. If you have received any sponsorship money, please bring it in before the end of the week. Or if you're in year 3 and are isolating at the moment, please make your payments through the School Gateway app. Can I just say a massive well done to all of you who helped in this course. Just going to leave you with a little roundup video of our spectacular readathon.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Goldilocks.
That's right. Has he got teeth?
Can you see his teeth?
Yeah. One,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4.
Well done.
Once there were 3 owl babies. Let's count them.
1, 2, 3.
The Tin Man. Should we see what it is? Oh no, we've got to go through it.
I want to.
What's this?
Can I just stay in here all day?
Into a great oven. Then another. Then the earth shook.
The slaves all streamed out of the back door, and as soon as they were hiding in the... "You have done it," Grandfather said to her. "Welcome to the grave, Lila." It was dust, winter dust, snow lay white and shiny over the leafy hills.
And he'd say, "Well, boy, how's it going?"
The door slammed shut behind him. "Don't move a muscle," said a grating voice. "You're surrounded." There were tears of anger. He looked his goodbye and forgot.
A minute later, they came out under the open sky. The sun was still shining.
They were all still, wondering what to do next, when Lucy said, "Look! There's a robin with such a red breast. It's the first bird I've ever seen here. I say, I wonder if the bird is not in the hole."
What's the matter with this place? I'm sitting on something wet. It's getting wetter every minute.
You can tell the professor that you can write some of them, or you can do anything you like. I know I've met Paul in there.
Boy, said the professor,